My name's Keith Cooper, Northlight Images, and this is a quick overview of the review that I've just written about this TTArtisan 50mm tilt lens. Now I've got another video that looks at tilt and an introduction to this, but I've just written the main review of it, and that has lots more photos and examples in it. My written reviews always have far more detail in it, and the videos sort of go along with that, and they're supplements to it. So do have a look at that if you want more info and a closer look at some of the images and things I've got here. Now, the lens itself, it's TTArtisan, Chinese company. It's a 50mm f1.4 lens, mirrorless design. So this is an RF mount. So I tried this on an EOS RP. It's available in other mounts. One important thing to remember is that the tilt effect that you get from tilting the lens, and that's when the lens does that, the tilt effect from it is irrespective of the size of the sensor you're using. So you will get the same tilt of the focal plane if you use this with an APS-C sensor, an M43 sensor, or a full frame sensor. It makes no difference. The tilt angle that is set, which is the angle you bend the lens, which is plus or minus 8 degrees on this, you can set it to what you like. The tilt angle, the focus setting, are the only things that set the tilt. It's a 50mm lens, whatever camera you use it on, you just get a different field of view. Anyway, that out of the way. The design of the lens, it's a fairly standard Gaussian design. It's a double Gauss, if I remember rightly. I need to check my optics and that. It's a fairly straightforward, it's f1.4. If you are looking for a 50mm standard lens and you've never used tilt and you don't particularly see a reason to use tilt, this is not a lens to get. This is not a really high quality lens in terms of image quality. Build quality is excellent. It's metal, fully manual, so no electronics for it, but even a metal lens cap. It's a really nice solid bit of glass. You know, this is well built, but it's a relatively straightforward lens. So if you look at the MTF charts, for example, you'll see that to get reasonable performance out of this, you probably need to stop down to f8 or so, maybe even more than that, f10, 11. This particular one has a click-free aperture ring, and also the knurled edge on it suggests it's made for video focus following and the likes for it. So the focus throw, about 100 degrees, 110 degrees, something like that. It's reasonable enough. This is obviously slightly more video oriented. I personally would prefer click stops, but that's just so I can change the aperture to something without having to look at the lens to see what the aperture is set to if I'm using it on something. But anyway, nice enough lens. The MTF chart, well, it's nothing inspiring. What you get this lens for, though, is the tilt, and it's the tilt really that sets it apart. Now, this is tilt, not tilt shift. So typical lenses I use are tilt shift, so they have tilt movements and they also have shift movements. This has no shift in it. That means when you tilt the lens, you will get a slight change of the field of view. Now that's because of the way the lens tilts, the actual physical mechanism of it, of where the axis of lens tilt is. The axis of lens tilt is behind the lens, so it changes the view very slightly. But I got loads of examples of that in the written review for it. Things you can do with it. Well, if you tilt the lens, and I've got a video that actually illustrates some of this. If you tilt the lens downwards, the plane of focus runs underneath you. Infinity, it runs flat out in front of you. Shot I've got here is actually set so that the plane of focus runs along the top of this table and off into the distance. You can see that the top of the building is slightly blurred, and also anything on the actual floor here is slightly blurred. So that's where you would run a plane of focus horizontally like that. You can run a plane of focus vertically, so you can have a plane of focus, and by changing the focus setting and the amount of tilt, you can decide where the plane of focus runs in front of you. Now, I've got lots of examples in this, and there's the other video I mentioned, which shows actual video shot whilst I'm changing the tilt and things like that, to try and give you an idea of what it was doing. The lens itself, say it's a 13 blade aperture, It gives fairly smooth out of focus areas, but do remember when you do a lot of tilt on a lens like this, you get an asymmetric out of focus area. So the out of focus areas on one side of the image is slightly different to the out of focus on another. It has a different look to it. The sort of thing that people would use this for, this is a creative lens. This is for just, yeah, having fun with doing things. There's not a geared movement, so you need to take care in setting the precise tilt if you want to set a precise tilt on it. But it locks once you've done that. You can change, the lens mount rotates freely 360 degrees, so you can have the plane of focus can run any angle you like. So you can effectively, with a few limits, place the plane of focus wherever you want in the scene that you're using. How to do that? Well, I've got some details in the review, but also I have actually written a book on using tilt shift lenses. Covers all the sorts of lenses that you can get for this. Obviously not this one because it was written a year or two ago, but that tells you how to do it. But shots you can get with it, you can get interesting looking shots. Do I have any real problems? I would like shift as well because I'm just used to using shift as well. But this is a lens that has good enough quality. You don't need to stop down to 1.4 to get the really narrow depth of field because you may find it's just not good enough anywhere along it. So you might want to use tilt at f2, 2.84, something like that. Even at 5.6 or 8, strong tilt on this will still show some effect. So it depends on what you want to use it for. For a lens like this, you're more likely to be wanting to use it to actually make positive use of the tilt effect to show out of focus and sharp areas. All sorts of things you can do. As I say, I've got examples in the review of it, but it's a very nice, solid bit of lens, and it's not expensive. It's, you know, prices vary, but it's certainly well under £250. It's, you know, $220. I've seen it advertised at various places. If you were looking for one, do make sure you get the current version of it, which has a full 360 degree rotation of the mount. There was an earlier version of this lens which only had a 90 degree version, movement of the mount, and 90 degrees means that you could have sort of plane of focus like that. You have it round to there and you have that, but if you wanted that you couldn't have it. But this version of it has a full 360. So there it is. Nice box comes in as well, but it's a very simple lens. If you want to learn how to use lens tilt, something like this is excellent. You can do model world type shots and things as well. If it's far better than the bendy lenses I've seen, because they tend to really not care much about image quality at all, whereas this one is actually it's a half decent lens. I've seen some old lenses which are worse than this. Coatings are fine, no great problem with flare or anything like that. A little bit of barrel distortion, but the moment you add tilt to something, everything is completely different. So the criteria you might decide to use for deciding whether it's a good lens or not for a normal lens, somehow some of those go out the window when you're using tilt. Anyway, do have a look at the main written review as well. It's got lots more examples of the photos. You can click on them and enlarge them up and have a look at the stuff. It's got some more technical stuff. It's got some info about how to precisely set tilt to put the plane of focus exactly where you want as well. But anyway, if you've got any questions, let me know. Yeah, nice bit of lens. Interesting company, TTArtisan, another Chinese company producing interesting looking lenses. With slightly different functionality. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hope that's been of interest, and bye.